Good evening and thank you so much for joining our stream newscast at 10. I'm John Kim. We have a live look over the just outside our station here at WNDU, and as you can see, roads are covered with some snow over there. And we have a first alert weather day, not just for today, but for tomorrow and Monday as well. That's because if you know, you know. We've been having a lot of frigid temperatures here in Michiana below zero. And what's more, the nationwide snowstorm is expected to just start affect our region at this moment. Joining us now is our first alert meteorologist, Jack Van Meter. So Jack, this is just the beginning of what we're expected to see, right?
That's exactly right, John. So that large winter storm is just starting to move into Michiana. It's going to be a long night for the entire state of Indiana. The higher impacts from this winter storm is going to be Indianapolis and south of Indianapolis. Thankfully, we're just being grazed, but that doesn't mean we're not getting any snow. We definitely are. We're going to talk about some snow totals, some impacts to you, your family, and of course, the roadways out there. Tomorrow is Sunday, of course. A lot of people have things to do to get ready for the week ahead. And it looks like the snowstorm is going to cause some trouble with that. And also, as you can see, next 3 days, we're going to be returning to bitterly cold temperatures. Remember, Monday is still a first alert weather day, and we have adjusted the forecast a little bit. Earlier on today, we actually had a low of 0 and a high of 0. I have now change that just because the data coming in is showing that the colder air is actually going to wait until the afternoon. So instead of warming up throughout the day on Monday, we're actually going to be cooling down, starting off at 5 degrees and then actually ending at 0. Also tracking out some more lake effect snow in the forecast that actually looks to linger in for Tuesday's forecast. But of course, everybody's mind right now is going to be on that large winter storm. John, everybody has been talking about that on social media. I'm sure you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are now wondering about how this will impact. I think you just, at our 4 p.m. stream show, you talked about like 3 to 4 inches here in South Bend, maybe some 5 to 6 inches in Costasco County. Could you tell us a little bit about how many inches of snow that we're expected to see?
Yeah, absolutely, John. We can jump right into that. Let's first, though, we got to start with our currents before we actually can go into the future. And I've got a few slides set up here that's going to do exactly that. We're going to start off before we jump into our radar image with a few live cameras across Michiana. This first one on top of our WNDU studios. John showcased this camera at the start of our stream. Let's do it again. And I think it does a great job of just showing how roads are handling the snow currently. This, of course, is 933 heading towards downtown. Obviously, this road turns into Michigan Street on the south side of town. Check out those street lights. They're actually being illuminated right now, kind of putting that whole hourglass shape, if you will. That's because snow is currently coming down and cars are traveling on 933 turning into Michigan Street right now, kind of carving their own way. Fairly slick currently, and they will continue to do so actually throughout the evening and the overnight hours. Current temperature out there right around 3 degrees. This is the number we always are going to be watching for. I know it's kind of hard to see. It says -9 degrees for that wind chill value. Still going to be a huge factor in our forecast throughout the evening. Here's our quad box of cameras across Michiana. Out in Elkhart, still dealing with snow-covered roads as well. Michigan City, check out all of the illuminated sky. That's going to be all those really fine snowflakes illuminating any sort of light. It's kind of light pollution there. And anytime you have snow in the air, it's actually going to illuminate it even more than a clear night. Current set of watches and warnings in place. That magenta color, Fort Wayne, Bluffton, that's actually going to be a winter storm warning. We're in that purple, grape purple, if you will. That's going to be a winter weather advisory that the National Weather Service has issued, and that is going to go throughout the day tomorrow. I did want to zoom out and just show the entire scope of this massive winter storm that's moving across the nation, starting out in the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, going all the way to northern Maine. And check this out. This is fairly cool. We put a number on it. This winter storm is impacting most of the country. And
Right.
check this out, from one end of the warnings to the other, over 2,200 miles. Fairly impressive just on the scope of this large system. Now, here's the radar, and here is the current state of the system. Just a massive, massive low pressure system that's moving across the nation right now. You can see those the rain showers and thunderstorms moving through the Gulf Coast states right now, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, all being impacted by the rain. However, once you move to the north, that's where we're going to actually find that freezing line where the rain is actually not even turning into snow, but actually turning into sleet or freezing rain. That's going to be the major impacts from this system. Northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, all of Tennessee right now dealing with the mixed precipitation. And then you move into the blue, those dark blues moving into southern Indiana, also portions of southern Missouri too. Seeing some pretty heavy snow. And check this out over here back in the southern plains. We're talking northern Texas, southern Oklahoma there, kind of along the Red River, just to the north of Dallas. Heavy, heavy snowfall. And again, the main thing with this system is a lot of the areas that are being impacted by the snow, by the sleet, by the rain, they're not used to that whatsoever. Their infrastructure is not built for heavy snow or heavy ice this time of the year. That's why a lot of states across the country have actually issued a state of emergency so they can be adequately prepared to help their community clear off all the precipitation. However, let's go ahead and bring the forecast back to Michiana. Up here in northern Indiana, we are no stranger whatsoever to heavy snows of any sort. Obviously, this winter has definitely been one to remember. Already over our average yearly snowfall rate already. We're not even halfway through, or just barely halfway through the winter time. Now, we are starting to see some snow showers develop in our southern counties, Pulaski County, Fulton County, southern Kosciuszko County. Seeing those pretty deep blue showing up on the radar right now, and that is actually expected to rise to the north as we go throughout the day and night tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. Road conditions right now, kind of what we were showing there, 933, that live camera was just showing snow-coated roads, nothing crazy out there, and that's what our plow cameras across Michiana are also highlighting. Nothing wild out there. We can see some snowflakes falling on Indiana 114 down by Fulton, Milford on US 6, seeing those blowing and drifting snow surfaces. That's kind of been the main problem that we've been seeing all winter long, is the blowing and drifting. Obviously, that is also going to impact your visibility. So make sure we are slowing down, and honestly, if you can, be a good weekend to just stay inside and watch it snow from the outside. Here's a look at future track. A little jump in the gun in a way. As you can see, we saw on our radar that the snow's actually down to the south. Obviously, future track's fairly exciting and pushing some of the snow showers well to the north there, but let's go ahead and indulge it, shall we? By 11 o'clock, everybody should be seeing the snow when John and I join everybody on Channel 16. By tomorrow morning, I do expect a good amount of accumulation to have already occurred. Check out those temperatures in the single digits, trying to get to 10 degrees. Rochester's doing that no problem. Chicago barely doing that at just 3 degrees. Snow sticking with us throughout the rest of tomorrow morning at the noontime hour, and then as we go into the afternoon tomorrow and into the early evening, that's when we can finally see this large and impactful system move out of Michiana. But does that mean we're done with snow here in South Bend, for example? No, of course not. We have lake effect that's actually setting up over Lake Michigan. You can see that large lake effect band stretching all the way down to Fulton County there by Rochester, giving those folks additional snowfall on top of all of the system snow that we are seeing. Now, here's that map that John asked for, and I finally am bringing it to everybody now. Like I said, kind of nice that Michiana is not going to be in the direct bullseye, if you will, for this system. That's actually going to be down in central and southern Indiana. Indianapolis already at 11 inches of snow. This is by tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon. Again, future track we want to show there. Terre Haute also seeing close and very, very impactful snows. Indianapolis, that might be a lot there. 18 inches is a lot. Some of the new model runs are fairly aggressive. But check this out. Widespread snow. This is at the end of the day tomorrow. We're talking 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock Sunday evening, just to drive that message home. 4 inches in South Bend, 3 inches up in St. Joe, Michigan. 7 though. 7 inches in Kosciuszko County at Warsaw. 7 inches Fulton County, Rochester. And also 6 inches over there, Pulaski County, where Winnemac is. Check out Fort Wayne, though. Yeah, they could be seeing upwards of 10 inches. I think it might be tough for them to get to 10 inches, but the model sure thinks it could definitely get to 10 inches of snow. And unfortunately, like I mentioned at the top of the show, our lake effect counties. So we're talking northern LaPorte, portions of Berrien County, South Bend, Elkhart, and obviously along US 31 could be seeing additional snowfall because of the lake effect that is going to start Sunday night. So tomorrow night, lasting all the way through Monday. We're going to just focus, though, on the system snow for this stream and then our show tonight. And then starting tomorrow morning, Alyssa Heilman will break down some of the lake effect showers, and then I'll reinforce that messaging for our shows tomorrow. But John, just a busy forecast, not just for us here at WNDU in Michiana, but for everybody across the country as we see this truly historic snowstorm start to march all the way over to portions of Maine by tomorrow.
That's right, Jack. Jack just walked us through about the national winter storm that's moving through the nation at this moment. And speaking of the snowstorm, President Trump approved dozens of states declaring the state of emergency about this snowstorm, and that includes Indiana too. So if you're driving down there, I mean, even if you're driving here in Michiana, but if you're going down to Indianapolis or further down, you have to take extra cares. And Jack just told about the expected snowfalls here in Michiana. We'll have 4 inches in South Bend and 7 inches in Warsaw throughout the weekend. So, Jack, is there any possibility of our temperatures here in Michiana warming up soon? No?
I want there to be, just full transparency.
Same,
I would love it.
Same.
Unfortunately, I know you do. That's why I smiled when you started asking that question, because I knew exactly where you were going with that one, John. However, some of the long-term data coming in, coming in, doesn't really want to support that. Let's go ahead, though, and talk about our wind chill value, and then we'll build up to our 10-day forecast.
Bad news with us.
Yeah, I know. I got to do that. Hey, we all got to be prepared. We got to be prepared.
That's why we're here.
Exactly. The saying throughout the week that I've really liked is be prepared, do not be scared. I kind of like that theory. All right, current wind chill regional values, -8 degrees here in South Bend. Out in Chicago, for one of the first times in a couple days, Chicago is actually colder than us, or excuse me, warmer than us. That's better. They're actually warmer than us by a few degrees, but obviously up in the northern plains, those folks flirting with right around -20. Duluth, Minnesota looks like the cold spot on the regional map. -26 degrees for the feel-like value. Very, very cold, but bring the forecast in closer, kind of putting the microscope to the forecast is going to show -10 up in St. Joseph, Michigan, -10 Cassopolis, and -9 Knox, Winnemac, and Rochester currently. And it's that cold and dry air that the snow that's currently falling is trying to fight to get to the surface. If you go outside right now, you're not seeing those big fat flakes like you see with lake effect. You're really seeing fine dust, almost kind of like sand coming down from the sky. That's just because there's no moisture in the atmosphere whatsoever. All the moisture that's falling actually came from the Gulf and has been pushed up, been advected up into Michiana, and that's all that's left of it. However, there's just a lot of energy pushing the system through, and that's why we are actually going to be seeing fairly impactful snow totals coming through. But for the rest of the day, Saturday, rest of the evening, overnight hours, we can see wind chill values going to hover right around -11 at 2 o'clock in the morning, and pretty much holding just the lower teens, if you will, lower negative teens throughout the night. For tomorrow's wind chill values, more of the same. Lower teens in the morning, however, warming up to the lower single digits. I should say higher single digits. It's kind of interesting when it flips over. You're going to do some mental gymnastics there in the afternoon tomorrow, with air temperatures finally getting into the teens once again. that'll be fairly nice to see. Here's the 10-day forecast, and John is not a huge fan of the 10-day forecast just because it is fairly cool, and you know what, one of the times I'll actually agree with his opinion.
No, I'm a big fan of 10-day forecast, Jack. No.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Don't try and hide it. You don't like the cold, John.
I like it. Like, you can see the trends of the temperatures, and I can see the precipitation and the average temperature. I love it. I love it.
I didn't say it as a whole. I just said this particular 10-day forecast.
Yep.
This is a tough one. So Monday, first alert weather day, dealing with the brutally cold kind of coming back into action. Following the brutally cold is going to be some lingering lake effect snow showers. Like I said, we're focusing currently on that big winter storm. We don't want to confuse the forecast anymore with more snow totals. Like I said, starting tomorrow, we'll have those snow totals and bring them to you so you know how to plan out your week. As of now, we're not looking at anything that is going to be detrimental in terms of lake effect snow. So go ahead and keep that in mind. As we go throughout the week, we're going to try and warm through the teens with little to almost no success. We'll be at 18 degrees Friday and Saturday, looking like the weekend is going to be fairly snow-free, which that is good news. And then, as we can see, days 7, 8, and 9, there's 8, 9, and 10, that makes more sense, are finally going to be cracking 20 degrees. But we have to wait, not for this weekend, but for the following weekend for us to even hit 20 degrees. And the next time we actually go above 32 degrees, I'm not sure. It looks like we're going to be starting off February well below the freezing mark, and hopefully maybe by the middle of the month on February, we can be back at least above freezing. So we're going to be dealing with those cold below freezing temperatures, and it looks like for the first half of the week, John, we're also going to be dealing with those below zero wind chill values. So dangerous cold to start off the week.
So we can see some trends of warming temperatures there in the later weeks, but I think I've come to a conclusion, like for this weekend, if you can, just stay at homes. I think that's the way. Yep. Thank you so much, Jack, for the weather update. I really appreciate it. So just as a reminder before we go, our First Alert weather app is free and you can download it anywhere from App Store or Google Play where you can get the latest weather updates. Jack and I will be joined with our Sabrina Huber at our 11 newscast on Channel 16 with the latest news and sports updates. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm John Kim from WNDU. Have a good night.